This recent paper on Paxlovid shows that there is no benefit in the vaccinated cohorts. This is a paper from 2026, April 2026, and it confirms what I expected when I was talking about this a number of years ago. I just can't believe that they made 26 billion and there were other options available that would at minimum have brought health benefits to the population. This is what gets me angry now, because you will find people talking about there is no evidence, that's why you can't use this, for therapeutics that literally you have no, almost zero risk for. And this case, I'm not even talking about the drug that rhymes with pectin, I'm talking about vitamin D. Vitamin D was, it's an essential vitamin. It's not even a vitamin. It behaves more like a hormone, for which we know over 80% of the population was deficient. And they chose to say there was no benefit in COVID. Instead, you must use this. And guess what? They have finally concluded that in this trial, so nirmatrelvir and ritonavir, which is a combination Paxlovid, did not reduce the incidence of hospitalization or death among vaccinated high-risk participants with SARS-CoV-2 infection. It took them 4 years to figure that out. And just coincidentally, 28 billion in earnings was made by industry. Now, let's be clear on something. It's not that Paxlovid doesn't work. Paxlovid, when they did the initial studies, worked on the unvaccinated. Okay? They found benefit with the unvaccinated. So then what happened? They had no studies on the vaccinated cohort, but they went and said, well, if it works on the unvaccinated, therefore it must also work on the vaccinated. And I was saying at that point, you clearly don't understand the disease. You are just looking for something you can sell to make profit on. And this is essentially what happened. They were less concerned about the efficacy and more concerned about the profit margin. And that's critically what has come out of this. Because if they had just looked at the science, they would have realized some strange things happening. One, Paxlovid was causing rebound in the vaccinated. It didn't really happen in the unvaccinated cohort, but when the vaccinated cohort used Paxlovid, a percentage of them had rebound symptoms when they stopped after 5 days. This was suggestive that their immune response was sluggish, or maybe they were producing IgG4. Whatever it is, it probably indicated that they needed longer courses of Paxlovid in the vaccinated cohort than the unvaccinated, but they thought 5 days would be just as efficient. And what they have found is that it had no benefit. Take it a step further. When you look at the outcomes, when they looked carefully in terms of, it's not just that it didn't have no benefit. Look at this. In terms of safety, most of the participants, 96.2%, had adverse events. Now, only 9.6 had very serious adverse events, and maybe they should get this addressed. But 96.2% had adverse events. It interacted with medication. It caused nausea. And they didn't give them vitamin D. Can you believe that? Listen. When you understand the science around COVID, and so the first principle, because we are doing detailed analysis to understand all of the mechanisms leading to severe COVID, we're going backwards. Our team, we are not satisfied with just saying, okay, severe COVID doesn't happen so much. No, you need to understand exactly the mechanism that led to severe COVID. Why did some people get it? What were the differences in the results? Why didn't everybody have this pattern? What was the reason pregnant women were more at risk in terms of in their third trimester? All of these questions still need to be answered if you want to understand the science. And when you do that kind of analysis, you realize very quickly that the reason antivirals like remdesivir, like Paxlovid, don't work effectively is because very often they are too late. It's not that they can't work, because they specifically inhibit the replication of the virus. We saw that it reduced viral load, but it didn't necessarily impact on symptoms. And this is because the primary mechanism with severe COVID-19 from our research is immune or autoimmune related. This is why steroids work. So think about it. Steroids work, antivirals don't. If that doesn't register to you, I mean, what else can? This cytokine storm is immune mediated. You need immune suppressants in order to manage it. That's why Dr. Chetty's protocol with high dose steroids and antihistamines worked so well. 0 deaths. Instead of them trying to figure out how the hell he did that, they're trying to take away his license because it could impact on the bottom line, which clearly seems to be the priority. Not your life, not the life of your family, but how much money they can make from governments and industry in order to just get things sold. 28 billion is what they gained from that, selling it mostly to the vaccinated cohort, and it's finally shown that it had no benefit. What is that? Important point with vitamin D, because this is why I put the link in the description for the Substack article I did on vitamin D, because here's the principle. They clearly still are not concerned about you, because has anybody been telling you now, even now, virus is still circulating, people are still getting sick. Nobody is still talking about vitamin D. It is one of the most simple and effective strategies anybody can do to impact on this virus. To be frank with you, if they did this at population level, if they gave everybody and just loaded them with 50 to 100,000 units of vitamin D, very few, because over 85% are deficient, so it's not going to do, the risk is so minimal. If they did this at a population level today, they would probably stop the circulation of the virus. I mean, completely, because of how it impacts on the replication cycle of the virus. Actually, the vitamin D has an antiviral effect because it inhibits PAC1. And this is something else that people need to understand. The science was there all along. It's just that nobody made money on it. This is the world we're living in. And they criticize people. I try and find solutions for people. And one of them here, as I said, is this, the spike reset. I have put together over 23 and more just to find ways for people to get better. This is simple stuff compared to what people are being told. And if you're even not interested in that, I am telling you, the most effective, simple strategy that you can do today, nobody has to tell you to do it, get your vitamin D levels checked. If you are low, make sure you're supplementing. Even if you are borderline normal, make sure you're supplementing. That alone, that simple piece of advice will save countless of lives of your families and friends. Just buy the vitamin D for them if they don't know. It is that simple. The other point that vitamin D was critical for was that in severe COVID, the reason that so many people could not be ventilated, even though they were on a ventilator and they couldn't be oxygenated, was because of microclotting. And guess what? Low vitamin D is associated with elevated fibrinogen, which causes blood to clot. Now, we know this for multiple other conditions, DVTs, PEs, stroke. If you are vitamin D deficient, there's a higher risk for worse outcome. And so just simply the microclotting would have saved lives. Do you know how many lives would have been saved if in the UK, and the health minister said it, he said he was going to put vitamin D across the population. I have no idea who told him otherwise. Then people were saying, well, there is no evidence that it works. The same idiots were willing to give Paxlovid when there was no evidence that it worked. It only worked in the unvaccinated. They had no evidence that it would work in the vaccinated. If they understood the disease, they would have known that the chances were that it didn't. And this is what the study has proved. This is absolutely ridiculous now. I mean, at this point, anybody who was telling you that and doesn't give you an apology about it, don't listen to them. Seriously, it is unacceptable what has happened. And as I said, I haven't even touched on rhymes with pectin, which was cheap as chips, had little side effect. And even if you weren't convinced that it helped, you could have used it. I can't even say it because I'll probably get banned for it. But vitamin D, nobody, absolutely nobody can give me a good scientific reason why, if people were deficient in COVID, they should not have been given vitamin D. It's almost medical negligence. Unacceptable. And this is where we are now. And the same people are still telling people what to do. They haven't learned anything. They haven't researched anything. They're just going along and they'll go, whoops, oh, Paxlovid didn't work. Well, guess what? You have nothing else in your toolbox. The vaccines are not working. I can explain to you why as well. Paxlovid is not working. What else have you got? Nothing. So what is the population to do? What, just get sick and die? That is where we are in medicine, and it is unacceptable. And if you don't call it out, and if you leave it, and that the same kind of attitude is going on today as happened then, expect the same outcomes. You're going to get sick. Your family members are going to get sick. Nobody's doing the research, and they're just leaving you to just get on with it. And if you have bad outcomes, so what? Unacceptable. I don't think it's right. I'll try my best to give you education on it. So this is my rant for today, simply because I'm sick and tired of the fact that nobody is interested in doing the hard work to try and find solutions for people. As long as it makes money in the pharma industry, it seems as though it's okay. Everything else, untouchable. As I said, coming up in the next week is about toxic liver disease rising across every age group. You better listen to these things. I'm telling you, this is so far ahead of it. Will take 2 to 3 years before anybody else even knows this. I know this because I've done the research on the admissions, seeing what is happening. Something is going wrong. I'm going to try and explain based on my research what is happening. Nobody else is going to tell you, so you better come and listen. As I said, this information is largely being given away to you. At least come and join and support the research. That's as much as I have for at the moment. But as I said, I still feel very upset about this kind of thing happening. And it is not acceptable. And you, the public, are going to have to start asking harder questions. Have a great evening.